Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to my channel, and today I wanted to go over my personal stockpile for 6.3. I just released a video on my predictions for the patch and how I'm getting ready, but today I wanted to show off the Teamcraft list that has been updated with the recent information we got from the live letter, and of course what I personally have, how much everything is worth at the minute, and I'm doing updates on my blog posts for how much my inventory is worth every week, or at least I try to. And let me tell you, the price is actually already quite a bit. So if you want to see its value leading up to the patch itself, you can see everything and more at olivia.com. With all that being said, let's get into it. But before we do go ahead and start, if you would like to follow along with the Teamcraft list that has all the items that I'm personally stockpiling and what I recommend to go ahead and get, you can get the link in the blog post down below. Now, don't feel like you have to go ahead and fill this out completely. It is merely a guideline and a suggestion. Only get things that you are comfortable with, especially since everything is a prediction and we don't know what we'll get for certain until 6.3 actually comes out. Let's start off with trial materials. I have 31 diamond platings, 53 emerald platings, 30 plate of lights, and 32 ruby platings. Again, we're getting platings because I'm assuming that 6.3 will bring trial weapons, and of course it's probably to be something from Shadowbringers, and my assumption will be that it will be all three of the diamond, ruby, and emerald weapons all together, since with 5.3 the Seryu, Tsukiyomi, and Saka weapons all came out together. But of course, again, it is an assumption. We don't know for certain, but there is a good chance that at least one of these will of course be coming along with 6.3. So that's also why we got plate of lights. I also went ahead and bought the trial trophies. I have quite a lot for the ruby weapon, but I should also branch out to the other platings and get more of the boardings as well, since naturally if the trial material goes up, the trophies and the boardings will also go up as well. Now with trial weapons, that means especially since they're going to be coming from Shadowbringers, we're stocking up on Shadowbringers Materials. Now I actually need to go and get some more tungsten steel ingots. I'm missing on those, but I do have prismatic ingots, dwarven mithril nuggets, and mithril ingots. Some materials for the nuggets and the ingots, and some materials for the prismatic ingot and the tungsten steel ingot. But the most important part is actually the Teamcraft demi materia. Now I have a ton of it, 4 stacks of 999 and an extra 582 of them. Of course, this is one of the catalysts for the Shadowbringers trial weapons, which is really important because you need around 10 per recipe and people buy a lot at a time. It is also very easy to get a ton of them with white scripts, so I do recommend getting them that way. And now speaking about white scripts, I have a ton of white script materials, which I'll be using to craft white scripts for myself. I'll be also selling materials raw, and I'll also be crafting white scripts on the day of 6.3 to get the Slither Sand equivalent, which will be important for crafter and gatherer job gear. Also, since a lot of people are going to be using a ton of materia due to all the pentamelting that will happen since we get new gear, people are going to need a ton of white script materials to get materia if they don't have enough gil for the materia itself. I also went ahead and bought a ton of crafters delineations, 2 stacks of 999 and an extra 281, since the crafter and gatherer gear pieces will be a little bit harder of a recipe, so people will use delineations to make crafting a bit easier. I also went ahead and bought a ton of immutable solutions, since the crafter and gatherer gear will probably use immutable solutions in their recipe, so therefore I have a bunch either ready to sell or to use myself. And I forgot to include, I also have materials for purple script crafting. I personally like to craft the rarefied Psychon Bravrois, so I have a ton of palm sugar, just enough Psychons, ovobos milks, and gelatin. I also of course have a ton of materia. I have all materia types for crafting and gathering, but I have the most of the command 10s, one stack of 999 plus an extra 287, 716 command 9s, a bunch of command 8s, since for budget builds they use command 8s as their main meld, and some 7s and some 5s. I also have some cunning materia 10s. Not many people use them, but they still do tend to go up in price, and they're usually pretty cheap in comparison to the other 10s. And I have a bunch of cunning materia 9s as well, and of course a ton of cunning materia 7s, which sell a lot at a time and for a lot at a time. And my personal trick is, if I'm overmelding for the stat CP, then I usually just go ahead and overmeld with command 9s instead of 7s, since 9s actually do tend to be more cost effective. And of course I have some competence 10s, 9s, 8s, and 7s, and I do recommend staying away from even number materials that are not 10s because people can't use them to overmelt. So if you are gonna look into lower level materials, try and stay with the odd number materials. And of course I have a ton of Guerdon materia 10s, one stack of 999 plus 84, a bunch of Guerdon materia 9s and Guerdon materia 7s, since Guerdon is the main stat that you meld on your gathering gear. I also have a bunch of Guile materia 10s and Grasp materia 10s. Grasp materia 10s are pretty similar to Cunning materia 10s, since it's not usually a main stat meldable, but people do still tend to use it, and it goes up in price and it's relatively cheap. And I also have a ton of intermediate materials and its materials. So personally, I'm not going to be crafting gear. I'm not touching gear with a 10-foot pole, but I will of course be fiddling around with the intermediates, which is a great place to make gil without a ton of undercutting and trying to deal with a ton of bots. So naturally I went ahead and crafted it high quality. You could do both high quality and normal quality since people use both, and I also have a ton of the materials to sell without it being fully crafted. I especially focused on the tome materials since it of course is a little bit harder to farm than the gathered materials. And personally I'm gonna go and get just a bit more because they're so cheap right now. It was a lot more expensive 2 weeks ago, but prices are back down. If you're wondering about what intermediate materials to go ahead and craft, I do recommend taking a look at the Teamcraft list, but paying attention to the Renaissance sets and what materials they use is most likely going to be shared with the brand new crafting and gathering sets. Everything, of course, except the Chondrite ingot, the Dexterity Alkahest, and the Endstone Aether Sand, since we'll be using a brand new red Aether Sand as a replacement. And of course, your crafting set doesn't need Dexterity, and the Aesthete set, which will be our new crafting and gathering gear equivalent, doesn't use lower level materials in it. Only the high level materials and the white script craftable equivalent, which is the Slither Sand. And finally, my latest addition, which is exteriors. Now, my exteriors with a brand new live letter that we got around a week ago, they announced that we're actually getting a ton of wards on every single server, which is super exciting, especially for those who want a house, but especially for me, because now I know I can go ahead and make bank with exteriors. Now, exteriors are already quite profitable, but with an influx of brand new homes that don't have an exterior already, people are more inclined to go ahead and buy it. Now, if you do have the opportunity to go ahead and craft these exteriors yourself, I really do recommend it, because crafting does tend to take a while and it's a little bit annoying, but the profit you make is pretty much insane. Now, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the exterior list in just a moment, but personally, I focused on the medium houses the most, the small houses the second most, and the large homes the least most, since naturally there are less large homes. Medium homes tend to be more expensive with the exteriors, and there are more small homes, but the exteriors for smalls are a little bit cheaper. So first mediums, then smalls, than larges, but it is really up to you for what you want to focus on. But of course, let's go ahead and see how much my inventory is worth right now. So here I am on Teamcraft under the inventory tab, and now we can easily see how much it is actually fully worth. Now, my inventory has actually been going down in value these past few weeks, especially if you take a look at the blog post. My inventory value was worth upwards of 236 million. It even got further than that, but now it's actually going down. Now, does that mean it's bad? No, not at all. In fact, it's actually better, since now materials that we should go ahead and stock on are actually getting cheaper, which of course makes sense since 6.3 is not all the way until January, and that's a good 2 months away. So am I worried? Not at all. That just means I have an opportunity to go ahead and spend even more on what I want to get. But by far the most expensive things are all my platings of light, the absolute heck ton of command 10s that I have, the Bayberry cloths, again the pleatings, some more materia, and the housing walls are exceptionally quite expensive, which is very exciting, and I hope they go up in price even more. Again, the walls, the immutable solutions, and so on and so forth. But take note that if there are some things that are not being sold on your server currently, that they won't count towards your inventory value. So even though I have a large floor's walls, since none of them are being sold on Louis Vuitton right now, it doesn't count to my total inventory value, so my inventory might actually be worth quite a bit more at this moment. Also, crystals are also going down in price. It is right now worth 5.7 mil, although I have been using my crystals, so that could be contributing. But from what I remember, the fire crystal is relatively at the same amount. The wind shard is going up in price, the water shard also going up in price, and shards are actually surprisingly quite expensive, so do keep that in mind as well. The lightning cluster and the wind crystal are also quite popular and used quite a lot. So with a total of 220 mil plus 5.7 mil, plus I'll give myself a few more mil because all the stuff on my retainers with the crystals, since you can only hold so much in your bag, I am pretty darn happy, and I would say my inventory and everything would probably be worth around 230 mil, which is quite exciting. Of course, once the patch week of 6.3 actually hits, we'll come back, take a look at what I sold, if I did sell anything, and how much this inventory will be worth then. But for now, it is definitely a buying time, not a selling time, and all we have to do is be patient and wait. And now here, of course, is our 6.3 prep list. Again, don't feel like you have to get everything here. If you did go ahead and get everything here, that would cost you 530 million. So suffice to say, I personally don't have it fully filled in. It is merely just a suggestion and a goal for someone like me and possibly someone like you. It's all up to you and what you feel comfortable with. But you can see how much it's worth on your server currently, but you can also go to fill prices based on worker board prices to go ahead and see where you can get some of the items at its cheapest. So if you want to go ahead and get a ton of command materia 10s, you go ahead and click fill prices based on market board prices. Wait for the thing to load. I can easily see that the cheapest would be on Louis Vuitton at 5k. If you want crafter delineations, right now there are some for 15 gil on Ragnarok. So if you're looking to go ahead and flip, I do recommend using this list and fill out prices based on market board prices. Now, that's not the only list I want to go ahead and showcase. It is also the exterior list here that is super important, since we're getting a ton of brand new homes with the word expansion. Now, I do really want to stress, take a look at the exteriors that not only look good but sell well, and you're not crafting something that will actually net you a negative. Something like medium arm suppliers walls doesn't even look good, and it costs 1.3 million to go ahead and craft, but on Louis Vuitton it's selling for 1 mil. So in fact, you're losing money by crafting this. Pay attention to what looks good and what nets you a profit with price to craft. Something like Trader's Mansion walls, craftable at 574,000 but sellable at 1.7 million. Small cafe walls, craftable at 440,000, sellable at 1.6 million. So not only are you tripling whatever you're spending to craft, the exterior looks amazing and people are definitely gonna buy it. You can check how much something is bought with the market board information, and we can find even more information, especially the exteriors that sell the most often and the exteriors that sell for the most on our specified server with this amazing website called the Saddlebag Exchange. Now, I will be making a separate video all about this website, so if you're interested, let me know. But all you have to do is go to the website, make sure you select the correct server that you're on, go to queries, and now select any of the queries there. We're just going to input our own personal parameters. I'm going to put 999 since I want to see all the results. Seal amount 1. ROI can be 25%. Average price per unit, I'm going to put it at 300k to cut off the exteriors that people only use for desynthesizing. Minimum profit amount, this is only really useful for flipping. It doesn't count your material prices to go ahead and craft. This is purely for flipping, so you can put whatever you'd like. Minimum stack size at 1, since you can only post one exterior at a time. Disable high quality only, since an exterior cannot be high quality. Region-wide search and include out of stock should be checked. And for filters, go all the way down and go to exterior fixtures. Hit search, and now you'll have a table of all the information and different types of sorts. And now these are the most worthwhile walls on Louis Vuitton. Now it might be more or less options on your server, especially on the newer servers, you're going to have a ton more options. But since Louis Vuitton is a little bit more populated than the brand new servers and people don't have a ton of options for homes, it is great to go ahead and check periodically, especially when we do get that housing ward expansion. But for now, this is the best. Now, if you see no value here, that means nothing is posted on your market board just yet, so you can set the price to whatever you would like. But I want to select which one is the most expensive on my server, and right now the medium forges walls is selling for 7.3 mil on Louis Vuitton, which is kind of crazy. The next one is the carbuncle mansion walls at 4.7 million, small smithy walls at 2.9 million. But what if we want to go ahead and see what is the walls that are bought most often, and we can go with sale rates. Now, of course, the higher the rate, the more often it is bought, and these small smithy walls are the most often bought, and you can go ahead and sell it for 2.9 mil on Louis Vuitton. You can even go ahead and flip it. You can purchase it at 1.4 mil on Moogle, and you can post it for 2.9 mil on Louis Vuitton. So that is a good way if you don't have the option to go ahead and craft the walls yourself at your FC. Next would be the large smithy walls, then the large florist walls, and so on. You can also mess around with the parameters, see what fits you the best. You can even use it for a ton of different things, but again, we're going to make a video all about that later on. And now finally, the last list, worthwhile interior furniture and interior items, also exterior and outdoor items. Now these lists will be updated for 6.3, and I will also be personally stockpiling on a ton of furniture materials and furniture itself, since I know people are going to be buying an absolute ton with the brand new word expansion. Of course, my stockpile is always evolving. If you want to see it being continuously updated, I do recommend checking out my blog post, but of course, I will go ahead and make an updated video when it gets closer to 6.3. If you're interested in this list and any and all lists that I mentioned today, it of course is down below. So that was everything I stockpiled for 6.3. My stock is ever evolving, so I do recommend keeping up with the blog posts to see any updates to the prices, and any and all lists that I mentioned in this video will also be there. Also, if you want to go ahead and see that amazing website, the link is down below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, of course, for YouTube members, Twitch subs, and Discord boosters. You all keep the channel going. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye-bye!